The fool has said, in his heart there is no God, they are corrupt.
Hey guys, so this is going to be a random spur of the moment video for me. A lot of people ask me questions about what happened to me to make me an atheist, at what point in my life did I become an atheist, and there wasn't one catastrophic event in my life that happened to me. A lot of people phrase it like that too. What must have happened to you? There's nothing wrong with me. Nothing traumatic happened. It was actually a really gradual and slow process.
This is going to be very interesting because I'm dying to hear what brought Jacqueline Glenn to the place that she doesn't believe in any God whatsoever. Not just one God, any God whatsoever. And I think this is a very interesting testimony and a very telling testimony. And I think a lot of you are going to find this interesting.
And it was something that I fought myself on because I grew up Catholic. I was raised Catholic from kindergarten to my senior year in high school. And then in college, I became evangelical. And I felt like I needed it, like I was going to go to hell. I felt like I needed to tell other people, otherwise they were going to go to hell. I was nuts. And then eventually, I slowly started to let go of it because I was lying to myself. And it took me a long time to admit to myself that it was a giant lie.
Stop right there, Jacqueline Glenn. Stop right there, because that's ridiculous. No, it's not ridiculous that you was a Catholic. No, it's not ridiculous that you became an evangelical, if that's true, when you was in college. What's ridiculous is that you said you believed in a lie. To the best of my recollection, I've never heard an atheist, and I mean one, to actually prove that God isn't real and that he doesn't exist. If anything, from personal experience, from dealing with atheists, I have seen that they have a faith that God isn't real. It's their own personal opinion that God isn't real. But they have never provided any evidence or any real proof that God isn't real. And like I said, I'm very interested in hearing on why you left your faith in God. Okay? What evidence was shown to you? What proof was shown to you? What happened in your life that caused you to come to the conclusion to believe that you was believing in a lie? I mean, that's quite a claim. And for all of you people out there that are saying that the burden of proof is on the one making the claim, this situation is a little bit different. You see, Jacqueline Glenn started off believing that God exists. Okay? She was a Roman Catholic out of her own mouth, and then she became an evangelical Christian. She had a belief that God existed. She attempted to serve God, I'm assuming, if she was an evangelical. Or even when she was part of the Catholic Church or whatever. Okay? So in order for you to get to a place that God doesn't exist and know for certain that you was believing in a lie, evidence must be presented to you. It can't be a feeling. It can't be some unreal experience or whatever. And trust me, when you hear her reasoning for becoming an atheist, you're going to understand why I decided to respond to this video.
My doubt probably started whenever I was in high school because one of my best friends was gay. And I never in my life, even whenever I was at my most right-wing, most evangelical point, did I ever discriminate against people who were gay. Because that was a normal thing to me, because my best friend was gay, and whenever people discriminated against him, it did not make sense. So to see other people use the very religion that I held so near and dear to my heart to bash someone that I was also very close to, I just couldn't reconcile that. And whenever I looked in the Bible and read Leviticus, where it actually said that you should put homosexuals to death, I tried for a long time to cherry pick that, but eventually I had to come to terms with the fact that that's in there and it should not be.
Many of you miss this when you listen to these testimonies on why people become atheists to begin with. Yes, they love to bring up the problem of evil. They love to bring up some of the things in here that they themselves believe is wrong. If you listen to what she said, she had a firm disagreement with a law that God gave Israel concerning homosexuality. And that's when her doubt started. I mean, I want you to think about this a minute now. She has a moral disagreement with God. And that means that he might not exist. I mean, let's think about this a minute, just for a minute. Your mother, you can see your mother, you can touch your mother, you can hug your mother, all that other good stuff and whatnot, right? You can see her and everything. Your mother tells you to do something that you disagree with. Are you then going to start to begin to doubt that your mother is real? That's how stupid that statement is to me. Okay? If you're an atheist and you do not believe that the God of the Bible does not exist, you need legitimate reasons to believe that God doesn't exist. Having a moral disagreement with God is a horrible way to begin that journey.
Morality that I have is a secular morality. It's a morality that I get from the society that I live in, from the people that are around me, and from what I personally feel is right and wrong.
I just got a quick question for you, Jaklyn Glenn. If your morality is based on your own personal opinion and what you think is right or wrong, how do you determine who's right and who's wrong about anything? How do you determine that God is wrong for making a law in Israel stating that if you're found to be a homosexual, that you're to be stoned to death? How exactly do you come to that conclusion if it's just based on your own opinion? Do you not see how stupid of a statement that is?
It's definitely not something that I got out of a book like that condones murder, is against gay people, condones rape, condones slavery. I mean, if you actually read it, it's a very fucked up book.
Well, Jaklyn Glenn, if you actually read the book, you would know that you're just speaking a bunch of manure right now. Obviously, you've never read the Bible a day in your life. You just said that the Bible condones murder, rape, and slavery. Let's talk about the first one, murder. Murder is a sin. If you read the Ten Commandments, it says thou shalt not kill, but it should be translated as thou shalt not murder. Murder is when you kill someone unlawfully or you kill them unrighteously, meaning there's no lawful reason to kill someone. A murder would be if you're walking down the street and you just blow somebody's head off for no apparent reason. That's a murder. If you in fits and rage of anger, you find your wife sleeping with another guy, and you shoot her with a gun, and then you shoot a lover, and then you decapitate. That would be considered a murder. You know what I mean? I don't think you know what the heck you're talking about, because in Scripture, if you murder someone, you got the death penalty. I don't know what you're talking about. If you're talking about wartime, then certainly you can't be for our military going over to different lands killing people. You certainly can't be with that. You have to disagree with a lot of things, including abortion, Jaklyn Glenn. But since I know that you support both, secondly, you said that the Bible condones rape. No, you got the death penalty for rape. Okay, and that's all. I'm sorry. There's one more thing I want to say about that too. There are atheists out there who are extremely ignorant, very uneducated, that will sit there and argue, well, God makes you marry your rapist. No, that's not what's going on. There was a system of restitution in the Bible. Okay, and a woman back then versus a woman today. Back then, a woman depended on finding a husband in order to survive. If a woman was found to be somebody who slept around or whatever, that woman would not be desirable for someone to marry. If that woman was violated or something like that, then she would not be desirable to marry by anybody, especially if she became pregnant by the rapist. The Bible, and I love what the Bible says about this, and I'm going to publicly say this, I absolutely love it, that it may hold you responsible for your actions. If you rape that woman, and if the father approves, and if the woman approves, then guess what? He has to marry her and care for her the rest of her days. And I know you didn't know that, just like Matt Dillahunty doesn't know that, just like the rest of you really popular atheists don't know this, or at least you pretend like you don't know this, just so that you can live in your world of imagination, but we'll save that one for a little bit later, just so that you can live in this delusion and have these whack reasons to be an atheist. And the last thing I want to bring up is you said that the Bible condones slavery. Well, what exactly do you mean by the Bible condones slavery? Are you talking about indentured servitude? Are you talking about people who are captured in war? What are you talking about? Be specific. Because if you're talking about the horrors of the transatlantic slave trade, you got the death penalty for stuff like that. So I don't know what you're talking about, Jaklyn Glenn. The Bible doesn't condone any of the things that you are talking about. Anytime you want, I've already destroyed you in the Drunken Peasants once. Anytime you want, I'll go back on that show again and gladly educate you on these topics, because you don't know what you're talking about. And what's even bad about this is that you're saying that you're a former Roman Catholic and you believe that the Bible condones murder? Moving on.
To be honest, and whenever you're raised Catholic, you read the Catechism of the Catholic Church, and also certain cherry-picked Bible verses are read at Mass, but you never actually read the Bible. So doing that was one thing that actually really helped. A lot of people are like, what book can I read? And they're thinking I'm going to recommend a Richard Dawkins book, which I will, because The God Delusion is amazing. But if you want to read a book to really make you an atheist, I'm going to recommend the Bible. So,
on behalf of my Lord and my Savior, Jesus Christ, how can you recommend a book you've never read?
So beyond the personal experiences of having a friend that was gay, I got a lot of education in the medical field. I actually went to medical school for a couple of years. And the thing that I learned that was most important wasn't the technicalities of how to diagnose different things or specifics about how the human body works. It was how to be analytical, how to be critical, how to use my brain to think critically, how to be skeptical. Those things are what made me really question the Bible and really question these things that I had just been indoctrinated to believe, that I had just taken at face value for so long.
Now we get to the meat and potatoes of what I really want to talk about now. Jaklyn Glenn claims that she left Christianity. Obviously, she wasn't using critical thinking when she was a Catholic and when she was evangelical because she was indoctrinated. Okay, she just admitted this. She never did any real study. She never read anything for herself. She even said that in the Catholic Church, they read the catechism to you, but they don't really read anything out of the Bible except for a couple of cherry-picked verses. There's no testimony about her actually doing her own Bible study and finding out what the book says for herself. So I want to point this out. She said that she was using critical thinking. Critical thinking would begin with, are these people in the front of the room telling me the truth? Perhaps I should actually open this up in my own free time and actually see whether or not this book is saying what they're saying. Or what they're saying lines up with the book. But she doesn't have a testimony like that. She uses this critical thinking also to try to suggest that when you leave the bondage of Christianity, you're going to learn how to think for yourself. Really? Really? You became an atheist because your friend who was gay was being, how can I put this, was being teased or was being put down because of some things that was written in the Bible. And I'll be the first Christian to admit that there are Christians who are dumb and don't know how to evangelize to homosexuals. But I'll also say this, there's a lot of us who do know how to evangelize to homosexuals. But to suggest that what happened with you and your friend and, you know, and what the priest was talking about in front of your Catholic church and them cherry-picking verses brought you to the conclusion that God doesn't exist. What, are you crazy? You said you was using critical thinking to question the things that's in here. You haven't gotten into detail about any of those things. Let's say God did condone rape, murder, and slavery. How exactly does that prove that he isn't real? Atheism is the lack of a belief in a God or a gods. Atheists don't believe that a God exists. A means to be without, and it means to be without theism, without a belief in a God. Now, we're going to talk about whether or not you're really that in a moment, but I do want to point out that you're not making an argument for atheism. Jaklyn Glenn, I'm going to let you on a secret. That's anti-theism. And anti-theism is not atheism.
Another really big thing that I learned was to say, I don't know. I don't have the answers. I mean, a lot of times patients would come in and they would be very frustrated whenever you couldn't give them a very specific diagnosis. There's a term in medicine called idiopathic. It's what you say whenever you do not know the cause for something. Sometimes all the tests that you do to diagnose somebody come back negative. There's nothing wrong with them, and a lot of them don't want to hear that. They want you to tell them they have something, even if that something is horrible, because having an answer feels good. It makes you feel like you're in control of your life. And whenever it comes to religion, there are a lot of things in this life. You know, whenever you think about philosophy, whenever you think about our origins, whenever you think about how small we are and how much is out there in the very beginning of things, sometimes you start to question, you know, how it happened. You know, is there something more? These are normal questions. But what isn't okay is to just fill these things with an answer or God, using the God of the gaps. I'm sure you guys have heard of that. It's not okay to do that whenever you don't have the answers. You should use science. This should be something that provokes you into wanting to discover more things, not just giving yourself an answer because I don't know isn't good enough.
Well, right now we get in the prototypical intellectual dishonesty that we normally get from atheists when we're talking about this. Guys, I can actually find 100 videos on YouTube alone. I can go to my local church. I can go anywhere where I can ask a Christian a question and they will tell you they don't know. Because I have never met a Christian, not even a Calvinist Christian, in which they use the presuppositional argument and arguments like that and whatnot, where they think they know everything. You know what I mean? There's a lot of times you're going to hear a Christian saying, you know what, I really don't know. You know what I mean? But we'll try to meet them where they are at that particular point. But Jaklyn Glenn, you're being intellectually dishonest by saying that we Christians don't say that. Number two, I don't think you understand what the God at the gaps is. The God at the gap says that when a person is talking about science or whatever, right? We can explain why this was made, but this part right here, we don't have an answer for it. So, therefore, God. The Christian isn't doing that. The Christian is saying that God made the whole pencil. That is an argument that was originally made for deists, not for Christians. A lot of atheists here online don't got the foggiest idea what the God of the gaps is. Okay? So we're not using the God of the gaps. It's you who don't understand what it is. And if you really did learn all that critical thinking when you went to medical school, I suggest you start putting it into practice for real instead of trying to get on the internet and look and sound all smart and whatnot, when in reality, we all know that you're lying to us. The bottom line is you are an anti-theist. You are against religion. You hate religion. You hate the idea. He's biting me. You hate the idea of following a God. That's what you are. But nothing you are saying right now is proving that you are an atheist. Denying that one God exists does not make you an atheist. The only God that you're talking about right now is this one right here, the God of the Bible. You're not talking about Satanism, Hinduism, the New Age movement, none of these other religions where they have, or even Levian Satanism, because even they think they're their own gods or goddesses. You're not talking about none of that stuff. The only God you're talking about is the God of the Bible. And it's just beyond me that intelligent people miss that fact every time they listen to one of these videos. I don't. I hear it. Okay, you don't believe the God of the Bible exists. How does that make you an atheist?
Sometimes it should be. And when people come to me and they're like, well, prove me wrong. Tell me why there isn't a God. Prove that there is no God. I can't do that just as much as I can't prove that there is no flying pink unicorn, that there's no flying spaghetti monster. I can't prove any ridiculous claim. And a lot of people use the phrase, absence of evidence is not evidence of absence.
How many of you remember when Jaklyn Glenn earlier in the video said that she was lying to herself about, whether or not God existed or not? Remember that? And remember when I asked for evidence for that? Now she's saying that she can't prove that God doesn't exist. So how do you justify your atheism? You started off being a Catholic. You believed that God existed. You became an evangelical. You believe that the God of the Bible existed. You have some disagreements with his morality, and that justifies your atheism. And now you don't got to provide any evidence for the fact that he doesn't exist. This is why I've said this once, and I'm going to say this 1,000 times here on the internet, and I'm not alone in this. There's a lot of people starting to pick up on this and really understanding this. There is no such thing as an atheist. There are no people out there who do not believe that gods don't exist. What Jaklyn Glenn is an anti-theist. She's especially anti-theistic towards the God of the Bible. I would love to hear her opinions and views about Satanism when she starts hearing all of her ideologies and everything that she's talking about practiced under the guise of Levian Satanism. You know what I mean? I got this book over here. I'll show you. Right here. Everything that she believes about her morality is taught right in here. Is she going to start telling me that that book is immoral and the things that is taught in there isn't true? Some people are probably saying, well, there's no God being preached in there. Yes, it is. It's the God of self. In Levian Satanism, you are your own God or goddess. So, again, I don't understand how any of this argumentation that she's using in any of these videos, anywhere in this video, is proving her atheism. It proves she's an anti-theist, or even, and maybe even a misotheist, but it doesn't show her atheism. If you guys are going to start making a million videos and pressuring Christians to stop believing in things that we believe, we would appreciate if you at least have a halfway decent reason for being an atheist. Because the fact of the matter is, none of you don't. A lot of you are heavily backsliding Christians who have left the faith to become, to join this BJ's wholesale club here on YouTube called atheism. A lot of you don't even understand what it is that you're claiming that you are. A lot of you don't understand the morality that you're claiming that you have. A lot of you haven't spent a lot of time thinking this stuff through. I have more evidence that you're not an atheist than you do that you are an atheist. And Jaklyn Glenn, if you see this video by some miracle or whatever, or if this ends up on the Drunken Peasants, I got no problem whatsoever going on there and taking all but 3 minutes, if it even takes that long, to prove you're not an atheist. I will prove that you're an anti-theist or a misotheist, but you need a legitimate reason for being an atheist. And if you're telling me you don't need a legitimate reason, let's stop with all the critical thinking talk, because you ain't using no critical thinking. You're an atheist by faith, and you need to admit it. Hey guys, I'm going to stop the video here. Mainly because I don't want the video to be longer than like 24 or 25 minutes. So, you know, you guys need to think this stuff through. If you're going to get on the internet and claim you're an atheist, have a good reason for being an atheist. I know most of you who are claiming to be an atheist is either a misotheist or anti-theist, or maybe you're even a Satanist and you're scared to admit it. But the fact of the matter is, you are not an atheist. Atheists don't exist. And I'm saying this to my friends and the people who don't like me alike. Do you have any real tangible evidence that would convince me that you are an atheist, that you don't believe in the God of the Bible, the God of Hinduism, the God of Islam, any God whatsoever, whether it be pagan, or whatever? Do you even know what the word means? I know you can define this God halfway decently, but I've never seen you guys do a hangout talking about the other ones and why they don't exist. All you keep doing is bashing this one. Oh, we bash this one because it's the most popular. Stop it. Stop it. I've been lied to enough in this video. Until next time, guys, it's been another edition of Preachers Required Ministry telling you to read your Bible and do what it says. God bless.